Johanna Leissner, Germany chair of European Open Method of Coordination Expert Group of Member States, Strengthening Cultural Heritage Resilience for Climate Change. And also she's working in a field of research on climate change impact on the cultural heritage for over 20 years of Fraunhofer Gesellschaft.
Hello to everybody, and I thank you also for inviting me to give a presentation about a very important topic, which means how can we really green our historic homes in times of climate change. And for this, it is also important to have this topic embedded into European policies and national policies. And this is why in 2021, the Council of the European Union, the Cultural Affairs Committee, has given a mandate, a political mandate, to set up an expert group of member states with the topic of cultural heritage resilience for climate change. Much of what I will refer to has already been prepared the ground by the previous speakers, Ave and also Robin Pender. And this expert group was composed by delegates from 25 EU countries and 3 associated countries like Norway, Iceland, and Switzerland. And the mandate which was given to us was quite vast. And we had to look into what is the state of play in the EU and in the member states regarding policies where cultural heritage protection and climate change are integrated into policies. We also looked into what are the emerging threats of climate change. And very important was how we can collect good practice examples. And this turned out to be the most difficult task. And of course, awareness raising. And this is why I'm so grateful that you have invited me for this topic, because as Ave already said, we are not only facing climate change and extreme events, but together with biodiversity loss. And this makes really a very, very big challenge for all of us, how we can survive and also protect our heritage under such severe conditions. And the output was a report in 2022. And this report had 10 recommendations we have given to the EU and the member states. Just very quickly, so here you can see we have asked our delegates, what do you think are the biggest threats to cultural heritage from climate change? So greening heritage homes is not only looking into energy efficiency, but to prepare the buildings how to survive in times of climate change. And that means how do we protect our homes against severe precipitation? And we will also see not only very cold times during winter, but we will have long heat waves and droughts. And this also means a very, very big challenge how to protect the heritage homes against these. Sea level rise, indirect threats, for example, people are moving away, or we have landslides, we have coastal erosion. How do we prepare against strong winds, but also against gradual climate change? And we see many of our historical homes are embedded into natural environment. And here we see increase of pests that are also coming into our buildings and especially into museums and archives. And they are destroying and damaging paper and manuscripts. But also we see dieback of vegetation, especially when we have long heat waves and droughts. And we also see into our natural and cultural heritage landscapes migration of foreign species. And we have to discuss how we are dealing with this kind of, for example, if a historic garden, some of the trees cannot survive. So what is the concept of a historic garden in times of climate change? So risk potential by type of heritage. So we ask our delegates, and you can see that buildings and monuments are very prominent. And we thought that they are mostly damaged and endangered by climate change. Let's go to the good practice examples. And finally, it was really very difficult to find in 2021 good practice examples. But what we have heard now in the conference so far, more and more good practice examples we can find now in Europe. But when we started, that was quite difficult because nobody knew do we have to call, who has all these examples, and where we can find them. Is there a data platform where we can easily find them? And what we also found out is that most of these good practice examples were driven by research projects. So research is really very, very important, especially when you are doing very big interventions in historic homes. Often this should be accompanied by good research in order to avoid maladaptation, because maladaptation, that will be another threat which we will see more and more in the future when there will be this big renovation wave will be rolled out. And just in September, we have been calling again for a meeting to take stock 2 years after the publication of our report. And we have done a survey conducted with the members of the former OMC group, and we received 19 replies. And I will just show very quickly what were the replies. So the report has received a lot of attention in the respective member states from heritage managers, from policymakers and stakeholders, and also from the society. We ask in the next slide to whom our delegates were invited to present the report. That was also very interesting. So 29% have been invited by public or civil society, 23% by stakeholders, but we have also been invited to present the report to the Ministry of Environment, to the Ministry of Culture, and even to other ministries, for example, in my home country, in Germany, to the Ministry of Economy and Climate Change. Altogether, we had more than 150 presentations about this ONC report, and that shows that our work has received really a lot of attention, not only in Europe, but also outside Europe, for example, in the United States by the US National Park Service. And here we have asked, have there been any policy developments since we have published our OMC report? And the answer of 10 member states was yes, we have been able to integrate cultural heritage into climate change policies at national level from 8 countries, and at regional and local level also 2 answers. And that is really a very, very great success. For example, in Romania, in Finland, Germany, Ireland, and Netherlands, this topic could be integrated into the national policies for climate change adaptation. Because without this integration into policies, it will be very difficult to justify measures and to justify and look for budgets, how to finance this. Well, we had also asked our delegates in the survey, what else do we need to enhance the impact of the report? And there is still, they said, we need intensified communication and promotion at all levels, including EU Commission, towards local stakeholders, national authorities, and also on global level. And we need that in the member states, authorities should sustain practical cases and develop technical bases. But that is already happening in Estonia, as we have heard from Ave Paulus. But everything needs, of course, also some kind of financial support. And this is very important because otherwise it will not be possible to adapt cultural heritage or historic homes. And this financial support or incentives is needed both on EU and member state level. And we need, of course, to stress the importance of heritage in EU Green Deal policies and many other policies. So we have also asked, do you have any additional recent good practice examples? And yes, we received a lot of examples from many countries, from Denmark, from Croatia, from Ireland. They have been very, very successful in implementing the OMC report. But we, of course, also received example from Estonia. It was just presented, the Life Heritage Home project, but also from Finland, Sweden, Wallonia, Slovenia, and also from Germany. And it is about a national research project called CARES, and I will soon tell a little bit about this project. Then another question in the survey was, do you have implemented any digital platform, or does it exist in your country to collect available good practices and information? Because that was also one of the recommendations of the OMC expert group, is to set up a platform where we can collect all this information for inspiration of many others. And here you can see that in the Netherlands, Romania, Sweden, Croatia, Germany, Ireland, Italy, and Austria exists some kind of digital platform. And the big question now is for the future, how can we combine these different platforms? And here again, I think the EU is called to do something that such a platform for climate change and cultural heritage will be set up on a European level. That has not yet been done. Now, very quickly, what have we been doing in this research project? Can we protect the built heritage and also historic gardens in Germany from extreme climate events? It was the first research project at all in Germany about this topic, and we were looking into the effect of extreme weather events, because we will see more heat and drought in the future. We will see more heavy precipitation and flooding. We will see an increase in wind and storm. We have seen this recently in the United States. And we have also long-lasting weather periods, whether it's heavy rainfall or whether it's heat and drought. And we also looked into sea level rise and storm surges. And for this, we were working very closely with climate scientists, because they were giving us this information from their climate models to see how this will change in the future until the year 2100. And we were analyzing the vulnerability of buildings and parks. We used high resolution urban climate models, and we developed adaptation strategies. And all this was put into an ontological knowledge platform. Just a very concrete example for one of our case studies, that was historic palace called Chais. So we were looking, how will the situation change in the future? And here we came with this combination of climate modeling and practical solutions. And this is an unheated building, and it has already a high rate of outdoor air exchange, and thus high fluctuations of the indoor climate. And we have also seen recurrent mold infestation and dry periods and extreme precipitation in the future. And here we'll see on the right side, there is the predictions from the climate models. We will see a robust increase in the future of hot days and also tropical nights. And tropical nights are very important for buildings, because when we have tropical nights of more than 20 degrees, in these times, the heat will be stored in the walls and it will be released during the night. So we will suffer, not only we as human beings, but also the cultural heritage objects displayed and stored inside. They are suffering even more from these fluctuations than we human beings. And we also looked into how will there be the changes on heavy precipitation. And here you can also see that by the end of the century, we will see a robust increase of 81% of heavy precipitation. What can be done against heavy precipitation and flooding? And here we looked into another case study that was an open air museum in Germany. And during our project, we have seen extreme rainfalls and flooding on the 9th of July in 2021, and recently renovated and preserved buildings, half-timbered houses were completely flooded. And here we tested, you will see that in the next slide, a new development made by the Fraunhofer colleagues, and it is called a fast dry wall system. And this is what we have applied for the first time here in this half-timbered house in Bad Windsheim in the open air museum. And we could show that with these fast dry wall systems, we could save 80% of energy compared to industrial heat, dry heat blowers, because they are only increasing the air temperature inside the room. And as was said by Robin Pender, that we don't want to have the air heated. And so with this dry wall system, we were only heating the wall. And with this new dry wall systems, we could also have lower noise production, and we could also scavenge the pollutants which were released from the wet walls after the flood. And here in this, you can see how we have installed in slide number 20, these fast dry wall systems. And it was a successful testing on site. And these dry wall systems can be used not only in historic houses, but in all kinds of houses who have a water problem and wetting problem. And yeah, and that was in a quick what we have been doing in the expert group of for cultural heritage in times of climate change. What were the results after 2 years of presenting our OMC report? And I hope that making heritage homes greener, and that will help us solve the climate crisis, as the previous speakers have already mentioned this. Thank you very much.